Here I am, the artist Galaxy Epop. I am Veronika Paderni, and I will briefly explain to you the meanings that I have put into this digital work. First of all, let's say that the mission of each of my works is precisely to give meaning and context, where people who one day will go to buy these works can then invite, in a kind of intellectual conviviality, to begin to speak precisely around this work of certain meanings that can be important. So the important mission of each of my works is precisely that of making a form of dialogue fluid. Maybe I imagine my collectors with a nice glass of wine, inviting other people, a bit like court jewelers did. From a very playful situation, they then begin to see meanings and from those begin to dialogue. So it is a form of digital, but it is a human digital, because behind each work there is then an invitation to dialogue. Start immediately with the main protagonist, which is Lucrezia Borgia. I must say that I read an opera by Sarah Bradford that really inspired me. That is, it led me to save this character from the damnation of memory, because it has always been depicted as a woman, let's say, quite subdued to the court of Borgia and with, let's say, little morality. In fact, reading this work, this biography, I then discovered a highly intellectual character, highly vibrant with this energy 6, and I remember that I am also a numerologist, so everything that I insert in my works as archetypes is then redone to the power of numerology. So this Lucrezia Borgia, instead, in the court of Ferrara, highly present, highly intellectual, and highly human, is not a woman depicted by history, probably by a male firm, as, let's say, a little incapable at the mercy of her father. Why did I put all these circles around this figure? Because this refers to a vision that I have of the possibility, when one is in the presence, of expanding certain energetic forms, precisely the state of presence that then creates an aura, which is not an aura of holiness, but an aura of presence, which gives the ability to certain energies to expand. I am, let's say, a little obsessed with circles, and I put them everywhere. Apart from the central figure, which is that of Lucrezia, in which you could spend 25 hours just talking about this historical figure, the most important thing, the one that amuses me the most, is to think that around this table, around this figure, there are a series of archetypes that resonate in the collective memory. The archetype has this ability to be a model and to resonate in the whole collectivity, whatever the culture, the age, the social environment. The archetype is a collective model that resonates in all eras and resonates in all dialogues and in all our lifestyles. There are always archetypes. Another thing that is present within this digital work is precisely the realization, the visualization of the great Salvador Dali with the clock, which in truth refers to the liquidity of time. And here too we could be talking for hours about how much time is actually a human invention, but it does not exist. It is also important to broaden the vision of the so-called liquid time, of which Salvador Dali, with his mysticism and his painting, has spoken widely about. Another archetype present within this work is the pomegranate archetype. You can't see it here. Here it is. This, on the other hand, refers to the mysticism of alchemy, of hermetic alchemy. One of the purposes and one of the iconic words of the alchemists was so high, so low. Now opens the fruit of the pomegranate, one realizes that the pomegranate's bud is then the small representation of the peel that then encloses the entire quantity. So here too it would be very interesting to open a form of dialogue with Vivaldi between the small and the large, between the movement of a butterfly within a small context and what it can create in a larger context. And then also the linearity, that is, what we are in reality is the cosmic representation of a larger entity. Another archetype on which one could talk a lot, for example, is the spiritual or even psychedelic mysticism, represented by this figure called Maria Sabina. Maria Sabina was a Mexican healer who later became the hippie icon of psychedelic spirituality. She actually had the opportunity, through the use of mushrooms and through certain chants in Mexico, to heal people from diseases, allowing them to make this psychedelic journey. She was an extremely spiritual person who had a very spiritual vision. Let's say it was a bit commercialized by the hippie culture, but even there we would have to spend an entire evening talking about the powers that these femininities have, these women, in medicine, these healers, to understand the point of a disease. Sometimes certain diseases are expressed precisely because it is an evil of the soul, malicine, the evil of the being. Sometimes even there, why is one sick or why does the body resound with a certain form of disease? He is probably not making his journey. And here too we refer a bit to those who are the precepts of numerology, that is, because you are here, what is your purpose? If the soul that is present and has chosen you as a container for this journey wants to be able to exploit this journey, Another archetype that I have inserted within this very pop context is actually the Annunciation, the Visitation of the Pontor, a Florentine artist very dear to me. I remind you that I come from Florence, where there is this meeting between Elisabetta and Maria. This is also very interesting because you can see how both these figures are then represented in their double, in a horizontal embrace, and then in a vision that they have of the spectator. Here, I saw it, that's why I brought it up, let's say the double of the figures. And therefore also the importance of knowing that we live in a reality, but that in reality there could also be a double of us, in a different space-time that can guide our actions and can also help us. Some called it the guardian angel, others called it Angelus. Scientists, of whom I invite you to go deeper into the studies, actually call it the double. There is a theory of the double that absolutely fascinated me, and I brought it back within this context. There is another archetype, very interesting, that I have put within this context of female archetypes. I have also inserted a male archetype, which is the thorny cactus in the corner. I'd like to remind you that all the energies that I have tried to represent in this digital art, let's say, have been taken apart by a biography, by a pen with a male energy. We are not talking about men and women, but we are talking about energies. In any case, our great Lucrezia looks at us, as if she were waiting, let's say, within this conviviality, to be freed from a form of damning memory that regarded her 100. Returning to the cactus, let's say, an archetype of the capacity of resilience and resistance within a hostile environment. Something that I see very often and put in almost all my works, almost a form of veneration of this plant, able to survive intelligently and with a certain form of metamorphosis, even in the most adverse situations of life, which, in any case, it has chosen. That's all. There are other archetypes that I invite you to see. Instead, to explore by yourself, remaining open to a popular pop vision, but also a little deep pop, in the sense that using this painting you could also be able to maintain a reading key and a much more prolonged scene, and also a little intellectual. So this is my invitation as an artist. Thank you, bye.